What follows is a video about the tabletop role-playing game Blades in the Dark, written and created by John Harper and published by Evil Hat Publishing. All art is used with permission by John Harper.
Imperial soldiers parade by in freshly pressed uniforms, astride their armored steeds and raising their gleaming lances high. Heavy-laden banking carriages, flanked by guards in clanking armor, trundle through a riot of electrically lit streets, marketing all forms of luxurious goods and services. Students sip mushroom brews at street corner cafes. Wealthy citizens stroll through beautifully manicured parks, attended to, of course, by their servant attendants. For the lucky, this is the kind of life that is afforded by the wealthiest sectors of Doskfall. This evening on the Nerdy Breakdown, we'll be discussing the richest neighborhoods of Duskwall. We, of course, being your usual hosts. I am Cuckoo.
And I'm Lou.
Now, let's dive into the sheer wealthiest realms this side of the Imperial City.
So let us start with White Crown, shall we? Located in the geographic north of the city, across Northhook Channel from the city proper. Imagine for a second, in a world full of darkness, gleaming electric lights shining on marble buildings inlaid with platinum and gold details. Landscape terraces and walkways in a city that is otherwise covered in human construction. This is the peak of luxury in the dusk. The scene is lit to near daylight by a menagerie of warm electric lights. The streets are made of a polished stone here. No simple cobblestone would do. This is the gleaming jewel of Duskfall. Here you can find the Duskfall Academy, one of the finest institutions of learning in all of the Empire. Also located in White Crown is the Lord Governor's stronghold, once commissioned by the Emperor himself as a garrison for military forces stationed at Northhook prior to the invasion of Scotland. The Master Warden, chief commander of the feared Spirit Wardens, and his estate can also be found in White Crown, as well as their primary training facility. Also located here is an ancient structure known as the Northhook Lighthouse. It has been converted into an electroplasmic apparatus capable of providing a navigation beacon for hundreds of miles into the darkness of the void sea around Duskfall, a wildly powerful light. Maestro Helleran, senior composer and conductor of the Spire Garden Theater, calls White Hollow home, as does Lady Freyla, regarded by many as the finest sommelier in the Empire, but they aren't the only notables you can find in White Crown.
Now, Loon, I'm sure the particular older daring player might see a potential fortune in White Crown, but it's not an area to be trifled with. The heavy blue coat and Imperial patrols alone are going to take 2 dice from your engagement roll before you even get started. I mean, Duskfall Academy is basically the Annapolis of Akaros, and it's right next door. Getting away with anything here would be no small task.
Yeah, Cuckoo, I agree. White Crown is a dangerous place to operate for scoundrels. Maybe somebody's crew wants to take down the nobility. Doing it in White Crown's going to be risky. Executing any plan here against the nobility puts you on the back foot, as you'll be operating on hostile turf, along with any drawbacks you mentioned. But the rewards could be great. I mean, they plan, design, and build Leviathan Hunter and naval ships at the Duskfall Academy, along with whatever other military secrets they might be hiding. And who knows what secrets lurk in the Master Warden's estate and their training facilities.
Moving slightly to the south, we find ourselves on the clean streets of Brightstone. Here the streets are broad and smoothly paved, its canals sparkle cleanly under bright electric lights. It is along these spotless avenues in houses of pale marble and rich timber that many of the wealthiest and most influential citizens of Duskfall abide. A variety of cultivated parks fed by radiant energy, like the Grand Unity Park celebrating Imperial victory in the Unity War, feature amongst lavish restaurants, jewelers, tailors, and other subtle luxuries. The Silver Market, an open-air emporium hawking countless rare luxury goods, overlooks the North Hook Channel, which the nearby Balmore Bridge crosses. The bridge itself is a massive construction of chalk-white stone and shimmering metalwork, and it too plays host to luxury shops and apartments while spanning the channel to White Crown. The chief cathedral of the Church of the Ecstasy of the Flesh, known simply as the Sanctorium, towers above the district with its edifice of buttresses and spires. It was actually commissioned by the Emperor himself during his last visit to our city 500 years ago. A few faces to keep on the lookout for in Brightstone would be Lord Strangford, Commander Balmore, and Roland Watt. Lord Strangford is a high-ranking member of both the City Council and within the Church of Ecstasy. His wealth stems from one of the largest Leviathan hunter fleets in Doskwall. Commander Balmore is Chief Officer of the Watch in Brightstone, and it's a position of power that he holds, strictly thanks to his family's financial contributions to the Balmore Bridge several centuries ago. Last but not least is Roland Watt, a particularly influential magistrate who is famous for his extravagant parties. His day job mostly involves bequeathing property, endowments, and financial settlement cases.
Brightstone is a pretty fancy place, and in that regard, similar to White Crown in a lot of ways. There's a heavy bluecoat presence here, which will give players difficulty in their engagement rolls most times, costing you a single die. Unlike White Crown, operations against the nobility here will be considered to be on hostile turf. But it's not as bad as White Crown, right? I mean, there are actual civilians here, and even a huge open-air market, right, Cuckoo?
I agree. You know, Loon, one thing that stood out to me was the underhanded side of the silver market here. Sure, you might be able to buy a fine Aruvian rug or get your luxury carriage reupholstered, but you may also find that the watch there turns a blind eye to the sale of rare alchemical distillations, including some illegal spirit essences, maybe even the odd arcane object here or there. If you're cruising the market for something strange, and provided they can look the part for Brightstone's clientele, this might be the perfect place to acquire such an asset.
From Brightstone, it is but a short carriage ride across one of 3 bridges to get to our next district, Charter Hall. The area is home to the civic offices of the government, including the courts, licensing and taxation, banks, and records archives. City officials and students of the Charter Hall University live here, along with captains of imperial industry who prefer to live within sight of the institutions that hold their money. Charter Hall is kind of where the city proper began, in the pre-cataclysm days. The original wall upon which the first lightning barrier was built still stands. It's in ruins, but it still stands. This is the district's first major landmark, the Charter Wall. All along the Charter Wall are a sprawl of artist colonies. Usually these artists are patronized by single individuals or families who expect them to make art for their personal collections. Bellwether Crematorium, the site of the Spirit Bells and home to the Deathseeker Crows, is also located in the Charter Hall district. The task of disposing of bodies before they turn to rogue ghosts falls to the Spirit Wardens, and it is here that this grim task takes place. Clerk Street, the main avenue of the district, is covered in iron fence lots hiding imposing governmental structures of all sorts. Here you can find significant bluecoats and even the odd Imperial Cavalry Patrol. Finally, Charter Hall University, named for the district it's located in, is made up of over a dozen buildings that have been converted into classrooms and dormitories for the students of this prestigious university. A couple of notable people of the district are Lady Drake and Lord Penderin. Lady Drake is a magistrate, and a rather flexible one at that. She's known to be reasonable when it comes to street crime as long as the coin is right. And Lord Penderin is the chief scholar at the Archive of Echoes, authorized by the Emperor to keep a collection of ancient ghosts trapped in spirit bottles, so long as their knowledge has proven to be a valuable asset to the Empire.
Well, with Clark Street, Charter Hall University, and all the magistrates and government workers running around here, Charter Hall has got to have plenty of records and evidence of note to the enterprising scoundrel. In fact, the book suggests offering a devil's bargain to gain an extra die on gathering information rolls here in exchange for gaining 1 heat. Because, of course, bluecoats are always watching for ruffians like you rummaging through the records. Have you ever seen Charter Hall used this way in a game of yours, Loon?
Oh yeah, Cuckoo. Charter Hall is the perfect place for gathering information or doing scores. In some games I've run, the Charter Hall library comes up real frequently for one of my players as a place to go gather information or even work on a long-term project of his, while Clerk Street and records offices come up frequently for another. But let's not forget, this is the home for banks, courts, documents, archives, and even other things. You could plan a lot of nefarious activities in Charter Hall.
Let's move on now to a section of the city just rising up into wealth. Night Market is the beating commercial heart of the city, and along dusk walls, arterial rail lines, and cobbled streets flow the combined material wealth of the city. Exotic and rare saleable goods flow in from all across the Imperium via cargo trains arriving at Gaddock Rail Station, and the rest of the district is tailor-made to sell and distribute these fine products. Night Market is filled to the brim with new construction, as a new class of merchant elites rise to claim modern advances and private townhouses of their own. A few notable establishments jump to mind amongst the menagerie of Night Market. For the weirdest of the wealthiest, there is the Vale, a permissive and luxurious social club known for its confidentiality and propensity to bend the rules when it comes to guests of arcane or unusual origin. If you're looking for a fine new suit or winter cloak, Dundridge & Sons has been the foremost affordable tailor to many doskers for nearly 300 years. For our more adventurous psychonauts, there is of course the Devil's Tooth, a tavern where one can experiment with mind-bending alchemical concoctions. Now, if you are of the sporting variety, the racing of specially bred hounds is currently in vogue among Duskwall's upper crust. You might do well betting a coin or two on Master Vreen's premier hound racing track in the Imperium. What kind of folks call Night Market home? Well, there's Jira, a dagger isle blade dealer so skilled that throngs of street toughs aspire to one day own their own Jira blade. If you need your fortune told, there's always Liqueur. She may act as a purveyor of soaps, hair oils, perfumes, and fine silks by day, but by night it's said that the ghost of her drowned lover whispers secrets in her ear. A lot of crews will need a fence for occult and arcane stolen goods, no questions asked, and the many-robed Mortist is just the merchant for the job in that regard. When it comes right down to it, just about any mercantile or material need can be met in the emporium of trade that is Night Market.
Man, Cuckoo, there's so much going on in Night Market, it makes a great place to come acquire assets for any crew. And it's probably a lot easier to acquire assets here than, say, the silver market we talked about earlier. In fact, you don't even take heat. The Devil's Bargain the book offers for Night Market is 2 stress in exchange for 1 die to acquire assets roll. Maybe the stress has something to do with its wild layout, huh, Cuckoo?
Absolutely, Loon. I mean, the layered aspect of Night Market is probably its most fascinating feature. The promenades of Night Market are broken up into these multi-level wooden boardwalks, and on the higher levels, you have these above-board establishments, shops, and stalls, all peddling their wares, while below there are these high-class subterranean avenues concealing elitist clubs, vice dens, and strange pleasures. I really appreciate how these levels of detail flesh out places for your characters to roleplay their vice, or for crews to pull a score, acquire an asset, or just hang out.
So now that we've taken a ride through the incredibly wealthy districts of Duskfall, from the incredibly restrictive White Crown to the burgeoning wealth of Night Market, join us next time as we delve into the less wealthy districts of the Dusk: Silk Shore, Six Towers, the Docks, and Crow's Foot. Thanks for watching the Nerdy Breakdown. We've been your hosts. I'm Loon.
And I'm Cuckoo.
And we'll see you next time.